I have been going down a rabbit hole of thoughts in regards to timelines, the fact that we have infinite amount of timelines, and who is conscious in what timeline and at what time. Go with me on this. Hi, my name is Mel. I'm a medium, an energy healer, and a spiritual coach, and I love connecting with you and showing you that you have the power within yourself to be anything you dream of. Whether that's a medium, whether that's somebody who's healed, somebody who's strong, confident, I love to help you do that. I'd be so honored if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, even if it's just a cute little emoji, just anything you do to engage really helps me, and I really appreciate it. So yesterday I wasn't feeling very well. So I was laying in bed all day and I had plenty of time to think. And believe me, this thought came in my mind and I could not stop thinking about it. It is day 2 and I'm still trying to understand why this thought came to me. What timeline are we conscious in? And does that timeline intercede with somebody else's consciousness? That's the thought that came to me and I'm like, oh my God, so deep, mind-blowing. So I had to process that all day yesterday and I'm still doing it today. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make a video. I really, really want to hear your comments and your thoughts on this because as I'm thinking about it and thinking about other people in my timeline, in my reality, it kind of makes sense that this is not the reality they're conscious of. And I'm going to explain. So let's start with this. There are an infinite amount of timelines per person. So me right here, this body, this version of me, I have an infinite amount of timelines. But I'm conscious of this one. My eyes see this timeline. My body feels this timeline. I hear sounds in this timeline. I hear sensations, feel sensations, express myself, know myself, hear my thoughts. Believe me, I've been going down this rabbit hole for 2 days. In this reality, in this timeline, in this form of myself. Now, we are constantly jumping timelines. When you heal something from the past, you jump timelines. You're changing timelines. When you heal from trauma of a situation, you're changing timelines. Because you're growing, your soul is expanding, your soul is learning, and that's why we're here. Your soul is healing and changing. And every thought you make, whether it's to go straight or turn left, you're changing timelines. So multiple times a day, you are changing timelines. Maybe you go back a few, maybe you go up timelines. It's a timeline jumping mystery. Now, this depends on the decisions that you make every day throughout the day. It also depends on the healing that you've done and how consciously aware you are of yourself. So there's many factors that determine the timelines that you're moving to, jumping to. If you still need to learn a lesson, you might jump a timeline, but it's going to be the same type of existence as a previous timeline you were in because you still have to learn a lesson. So a lot of you are like, it's the same shit every day. I'm not jumping timelines. You are. You're jumping timelines constantly because you have an infinite amount. Okay, now that we got that. The next thing is, in my current timeline, no matter which one I jump to, whichever one I'm current in from second to second to second, from timeline to timeline to timeline, I'm conscious of being that version of myself in those timelines, even as I'm jumping. Who is also conscious in that timeline with me? Okay? Is it just me that is conscious in that timeline? Meaning, my neighbor who's putting his trash cans out is not conscious that he's doing that right now. He's in a different timeline somewhere else, conscious of doing and being something else. My mom just made a Facebook post about how good of a handy person I am, which is true. I can build you a house from the ground up. But is she conscious in her own timeline of writing that? Because my mom could be in a timeline here and I could be in a timeline here, consciously. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, I cannot wrap my mind around this. I'm conscious of my mom writing that Facebook post in my timeline. But is my mom also conscious in my same exact timeline at the same exact moment? If there is an infinite amount of timelines, and there are 8 billion people on the planet who each have their own infinite amount of timelines, how in the world would we ever be conscious in the same timeline? I hope I'm making sense. The thoughts just keep coming in my head, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm conscious in this timeline. I can hear and see and speak and feel and touch and experience sound in this reality. I'm moving myself. I know I'm consciously aware of moving. But if there is an infinite amount of my timelines, my realities, there's another timeline that I'm not recording this video in right now. There's another timeline where I'm not aware of my movements, of my sounds in this timeline. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me, but at the same time, it's so mind-boggling that it's hard to wrap a human ego experience mind around, because I am interacting with people, like my neighbor. I'm talking to him. I see him. But if he's not conscious of this reality, I am, and his is just intersecting with mine, what happens? What does that mean? Or like, there's a reality where my dad is still alive. There's a reality because he also has an infinite amount of realities. There's a reality where my dad is still alive, and I may be, because there's an infinite amount, still alive in his timelines and his realities where he's still alive. But I'm not consciously aware of those realities. In my timeline, in my reality that I'm experiencing right now, my father has passed away. But that also stands to reason that I have more timelines where he is still alive. Can I go back to those? Can I awaken a consciousness inside that timeline? Do I want to do that? I just laid in bed all day thinking about this. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure that I have not explained this very clearly, but I keep having these experiences come in my mind. These thoughts come in my mind. Is my mom conscious right now? It appears that she is, because my mom made a Facebook post about how handy I am because I put some lights up at her house. So in my current reality, it stands that my mom is conscious of what's happening, but she's conscious in my reality. I'm experiencing her writing that Facebook post. I'm experiencing her asking me to come put lights up at her house. But is she conscious of this timeline of mine, or is she in her own timeline conscious of something else? Is the mom that I'm looking at conscious at the same me who's conscious looking at her, or is she conscious of a different timeline? Okay, let me try to say this in a different way. I know I'm talking crazy. There are infinite amount of timelines. Infinite. There's so many that you cannot grasp it with your human mind. And it stands to reason that we're only I'm conscious right now. I don't feel myself in any other timeline. I don't feel myself infinitely. If we did, our human minds could not take it, and civilization would not be here. So you're conscious of one timeline at a time. And whether you jump fast like that, you're still conscious because you don't feel like you're jumping timelines. And if I have an infinite amount of timelines, and my mom has an infinite amount of timelines, and the timeline we're on depends on our life, depends on our experiences, depends on our parents, our upbringing, depends on our trauma, how much we've healed, how conscious we are of life. There's so many factors that determine what timeline you are on. How can we possibly ever be conscious on the same timeline? So like, my mom is an NPC, non-player character, in this timeline that I'm on, because she's on her own conscious somewhere else. But because our timelines and our realities all intersect, a version of her, a timeline that is a possibility of hers, it may not be the one she's conscious of, exists with mine. So she is an NPC providing me an experience that she's not conscious of. Oh, okay. All right, I've gone down the rabbit hole so much. I'm still going. Leave me your comments and your thoughts. What do you think about that? What have you experienced with that? Do you experience a sensation of a non-player character? Somebody who's in your reality, you can physically see them. You could physically touch them if you want to, but that takes you down another rabbit hole. I'm experiencing the physical touch because I'm conscious in this timeline. But if they're not conscious of the timeline that's intersecting with mine, do they feel it? Okay, I'm going to wrap that up. Leave me your comments. Let me know. I'm super curious about this. Catch you in the next video.